Welcome students. As in my first video on this particular lecture of NCERT based history of India, where we started with the modern Indian section. So we'll continue from there only. So again, I'm welcoming all of you to this Amit Sinha IAS Academy. That's an online initiative that we as a team have undertaken in last few days, which is, I believe, that very much important, very important for especially every serious student who is preparing for the IS examination, and because of this so-called COVID-19, they are all home locked, they are all homebound, and obviously from there only they want to engage their time very constructively. So without wasting your time, let me now give you the idea about this particular video. So as in my first video, in the earlier video, I discussed with all of you the chapter number 1 of the NCERT written by Bipin Chandra on modern India. Now there in that chapter I explained to all of you the entire chapter can be classified into 3 parts. One was the later phase of the Mughals, especially the later rulers of Mughals after Aurangzeb. And second one was the emergence of the new states in the 18th century. The third one was obviously the 18th century debate, that is, was it a dark age or not. So this video is going to be on the second aspect, that is emergence of states in the 18th century. So let me explain to all of you that what kind of states got emerged in the 18th century once the Mughal authority in India started declining, especially after the death of Aurangzeb in 1707. Alright, so let me give you the brief idea about it. So see, emergence of states in the 18th century. So entire states can be categorized into 3 broader segments. One group of states could be easily called as the succession states. Succession states. And second one is called as the rebellious states. Rebellious states. And the third one was the states having no influence, no direct influence of the Mughals in India, especially in certain pockets of India like northeastern part of India, then the coastal regions of India towards the west and the eastern coastal regions of India. But there also we have had some minor states which were having no influence as such from the Mughal authority. On the other hand, we have the 2 major group of states, which is also mentioned very clearly in the NCERT, that we were having succession states and rebellious states also in the 18th century after the decline of, rather after the, of course, declining power of the Mughal authority in India. So in succession states, we have to look after the states like Bengal, Awadh and Hyderabad. So Bengal, Awadh and Hyderabad, they became the succession states. Why? Because they were direct inheritor of the Mughal style of governance or administration. Because all these particular regions were founded by the Mughal officers only. The Mughal nobles, the governors, the divans, they were actually responsible in the foundations of these 3 states, Bengal, Awadh and Hyderabad, in the early 18th century. Alright, so we have to discuss about these states. Then second category of states were rebellious states. So of course the most important rebellious states was Marathas. So Marathas also emerged in the region of course, Maharashtra towards the southern part of Vindhyas. So Marathas emerged. Then Sikhs, another very important you can say state in Punjab, they also emerged. Then of course some minor you can say a group of people also emerged as a power to reckon with, like Jats, Pathans, Bangash, etc. So these all also emerged as a rebellious states in the 18th century. So largely in our discussion we are going to focus upon these all states, and exactly the way the NCERT in chapter number 1 describes the entire event of 18th century, this what actually you will notice in this particular book of NCERT. So now we are going to discuss about the succession states. So what was succession states and how it actually got formed? See, succession states simply indicate that they were the direct inheritor of the Mughal administrative system. So they followed the economic or political modules or models of Mughal authority there also in these states, because they were largely the Mughal officials who were either acting as a wazir or a diwan or as a governor. In those regions, they finally became an autonomous, of course, regions inside the entire Mughal empire. So they did not declare theirs complete independence or clear independence from the Mughal authority, yet they were maintaining their own system of governance, of course largely influenced by the Mughal administrative and economic model. Alright, so that was the meaning of succession states. So let me explain to you that how this all actually came into existence. Now if you see in the NCERT has described about these all states in a very elaborate manner, I would say in this manner, because there are a lot of facts which are mentioned there in the NCERT which I believe have all the potential to be asked to you as a question there in prelims. Fine. Let me explain to you with starting with a group of southern states which have been very nicely explained there in the NCERT. So I'll be taking up the first aspect here is the group of southern states in the 18th century. So in other words, what kind of states emerged in the peninsular India, in the southern India, we'll discuss first that, and then we'll move towards east and then towards the northern part of India. Fine. So see, in the southern states, as per the NCERT, the states like Hyderabad, Karnataka and Mysore. Now these three states have been very nicely explained, apart from emergence of also Kerala. So emergence of Kerala is also very clearly mentioned in the NCERT. So let me explain to you all these four states briefly. See, Hyderabad. Now Hyderabad got established due to one of the wazirs of course, the Mughal authority, especially in the regime of Muhammad Shah Rangila. Now if you remember in my first video I discussed about that Muhammad Shah Rangila, now he came into power as a Mughal ruler in 1720 and remained in the power almost for more than 20 years. Alright, so under his regime only these all states actually came into existence. Finally, so Nizamul Mulk or Chin Kulich Khan. So Nizamul Mulk or Chin Kulich Khan, he was the founder of the Hyderabad state in India. Alright, so Hyderabad state was founded in 1724 by Nizamul Mulk, or also called as Asaf Jah. So he is said to be the beginner of Asaf Jahi dynasty. Asaf Jahi dynasty in Hyderabad. Alright, so this is what actually he came up with this, his model of course, governance there in Hyderabad. Now see, he was one of the most ablest nobles of the Mughal authority. He was having his personal, you can say, differences with Muhammad Shah. Therefore, he finally went away from the Delhi court to find out, or to actually found out a new, you can say, system there in Hyderabad towards the Deccan, and therefore the Hyderabad state came into existence. Fine. So he was one of the most, you can say, talented nobles at that point of time in the Mughal authority. Now the shift of this particular talented people from the Mughal authority was also a factor behind the further decline of the Mughal empire in India. Fine, that's what actually we have to also keep in mind. So exactly what happened? So he shifted towards Deccan and finally laid down the foundation of Hyderabad. Fine. So Hyderabad was formed in 1724 as a separate state, as an autonomous state, as a succession state from the Mughal authority in the 18th century. Now, once he formed it, of course, he followed a very liberal, tolerant policies towards the other communities, especially towards the Hindus, and therefore, even in NCERT, it also mentions Puran Chand. Puran Chand was the Diwan of Hyderabad state under Nizamul Mulk or Chin Kulich Khan. Alright. So this what actually is the important information for all of you, which is also mentioned there in the NCERT. Now see, besides Hyderabad, of course, we also have a small principality in the name of Carnatic. Now, Carnatic is a small territory, is an area which is between the region of Hyderabad and, of course, region of Bangalore, that is current Karnataka. So, between that region, you have a territory is known as Carnatic. Now, Carnatic was also one of the subas, small province of the Mughal authority. Now, one of the subas in the Deccan under the Mughal control, obviously it actually had to also report to the Nizam of Hyderabad. Theoretically, especially in the context of the Nizam of Hyderabad was also a wazir at that particular point of time. So in that context, of course, the Carnatic Nawab was to report to Nizam of Hyderabad. So indirectly, he was the Nawab of Carnatic area was under the control of Nizam of Hyderabad. So idea is the issue of Carnatic also became an issue of the intervention of European trading powers in the 18th century that led to the emergence or the beginning of Carnatic wars between the English trading companies and the French trading companies. We'll discuss it separately. Alright. So this what actually has happened. So Nawab Sadatullah Khan, so he was the first Nawab of Carnatic. Fine. And he wanted to, of course, put into power his own nephew Dost Ali, and probably in the NCERT it is not mentioned, but definitely it is mentioned that Dost Ali was killed by Marathas, and that also led to an issue of succession in Carnatic. And because of that issue only, the European trading powers had to intervene there. Fine. So this is how it is briefly mentioned there in your NCERT. But the issue of Mysore is elaborately mentioned there in NCERT. Let us now discuss the issue of Mysore, because from there a question can directly be asked to you there in your prelims examination, because there are at least more than 20 facts which are mentioned there on the issue of Mysore in the NCERT, which all have the potential to be asked to you as a question directly in your prelims examination. Let me explain to you what all issues are there. Now see, the issue of Mysore is important for all of you. Now Mysore, how come Mysore has come into picture here? Now see, Mysore has a typical history. Alright, it was also under the part of the Vijayanagar Empire, and then finally it was under the Mughal Empire. So it remained under the Mughal Empire, and then in 18th century, the political transformations took place in Mysore, especially in the context of a ruler of Mysore, Chikka Krishna Raj. Now, Chikka Krishna Raj was the ruler of Mysore, alright, and this ruler was replaced forcefully by two of his nobles, of course, Nanja Raj and Devraj. So Nanja Raj and Devraj replaced him, and they controlled the entire political affairs of Mysore. Now, in this background, a person named Hyder Ali. So Hyder Ali, he came into power in this background because he was a very ordinary person. He was born in 1721 in Polar district of Karnataka in Budikot, and from here only he actually belonging to a very poor family. Of course, he was an uneducated, illiterate person. Now see, he was an uneducated, illiterate person working as a sepoy in the Mysore army. And from there, he elevated himself to become the ruler of Mysore at a point of time. So he finally defeated these Nanja Raj and Devraj and removed him from the power, and finally acquired the throne of Mysore. Now see, Mysore politics of Deccan area of India was in 18th century was quite complex. Now why quite complex? Because now we were having multiple powers in the Deccan area in the 18th century. One was, of course, Mysore, which emerged under Hyder Ali. Second one was, of course, Hyderabad, which was still there as a powerful entity there in the form of Asaf Jahi dynasty. Third one was even Marathas. So when Marathas also emerged. And the fourth one was also Kerala. So when Kerala also became a powerful, of course, entity there in the southern part of India, in the tip of southern part of India, in the under the leadership of Martanda Varma. All right, we'll talk about that also shortly. So it was a complex political structure in South India at that point of time. Fine, that's what actually you have to keep in mind always. But nevertheless, Hyder Ali was a man of purpose. He was always having the scientific ideas, modern ideas, even though he was illiterate. He set up a modern arsenal. That's very important fact for all of you. Modern arsenal in Dindigul. Now, arsenal is the place where you manufacture, of course, arms and ammunitions. All right. Now, see, his step in terms of going for establishing a modern arsenal in Dindigul is very important from our historical point of view, because in 1755 it was established. It provided a base to the emergence of Mysore as a formidable army in the Deccan area at that point of time. तो आप देख सकते हैं कि क्या कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी अब इमर्ज हो रहा है. सो यहाँ पे एक तरफ हैदर अली पावर एसर्ट कर रहा है, पावर एसर्ट ही नहीं कर रहा, अदर कि मैसूर को पावरफुल बना रहा है इस तरीके के योजनाओं से. ठीक है, अब इसके बीच में मराठास का भी इश्यूज है, निजाम का भी इश्यूज है. नाउ मराठास एंड निजाम्स, दे ऑल विल बी फाइटिंग अगेंस्ट मैसूर. ऑफ कोर्स हैदर अली हैज बीन एबल टू डिफीट देम एट टाइम्स एंड आल्सो गॉट डिफीटेड एट टाइम्स. सो ये लड़ाई चलता रहेगा पूरे साउथ इंडिया में, डेक्कन एरिया में 18th सेंचुरी में. ठीक है, लेकिन ये लड़ाई तब जाके कॉम्प्लेक्स हो जाएगा जब ये लड़ाई इंग्लिश कंपनी के साथ भी होगा. सो सी, एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर. नाउ एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर was a typical problem for the entire Mysore area. So why typical problem? Because you can understand, he as a person, Hyder Ali provided a strong base to Mysore in terms of military and also in terms of economic power. Now see, what did he do? In Ncert it is clearly written that Hyder Ali, he brought certain changes in the entire affairs of Mysore. For example, first and foremost, Polygars. Now see, Polygars, who was Polygars? This question can be asked to you in prelims. Who were Polygars? Now Polygars were the military chieftains and jamindars. Now Polygars were the military chieftains and jamindars, and this is what actually is also mentioned there in the Ncert. So a question can be asked to you in prelims that who were the Polygars? So Polygars were the warrior, fighters, military. So they were the fighters, warrior, military chieftains. ठीक है, और वो जमींदार भी थे. तो इनको कंट्रोल पहले हैदर अली ने किया, क्योंकि ये अलग से एक पावर हाउस थे पूरे साउथ इंडिया और डेक्कन के पॉलिटिक्स में. तो इनको कंट्रोल किया, और इनको कंट्रोल करने के बाद ऑफ कोर्स हैदर अली ने एक स्ट्रॉन्ग इकोनॉमिक बेस तैयार किया मैसूर के लिए. हालांकि एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर हुआ 1767 में, 1767 में, और इस पर्टिकुलर वॉर में हैदर अली वाज विक्टोरियस. ऑलराइट, ही वाज विक्टोरियस. ही वाज एबल टू आल्सो डिफीट ब्रिटिशर्स, एंड एनसीईआरटी राइट्स दैट ही वाज एबल टू रीच द वॉल ऑफ मद्रास. तो मद्रास तक वहां पहुंच गया था. फिर ब्रिटिशर्स ने इसे स्पेसिफाई कर लिया और साइन कर लिया पीस ट्रीटी. ठीक है, नाउ इसके बाद भी सेकेंड एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर हुआ, और ये जो वॉर हुआ 1780 से 84 के बीच में, ये डिसाइडिंग फैक्टर हो गया हैदर अली के लिए, कि इसी वॉर में हैदर अली का देहांत हो जाता है. हैदर अली पास अवे इन 1782. ऑलराइट, तो वॉर चलता होता है, इसी बीच में हैदर अली को चोट लगती है, गोली लगती है, इससे मर जाता है हैदर अली. नाउ सी, हैदर अली got injured and finally he died, and then it was overtaken by his son Tipu Sultan. So Tipu Sultan is very important figure for all of you from both prelims and the mains point of view. ठीक है, टीपू सुल्तान आपके लिए दोनों तरीके से इंपॉर्टेंट है, प्रीलिम्स में भी क्वेश्चंस आते हैं और मेंस में भी क्वेश्चंस आएंगे। ठीक है, दोनों तरीके से आपको टीपू सुल्तान को समझना है। ठीक, तो टीपू सुल्तान का एंट्री कब होता है? एंट्री होता है हैदर अली, जो उसके फादर थे, उनके मरने के बाद। तो 1782 में हैदर अली मरते हैं और टीपू सुल्तान उसी वॉर में पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं। ठीक है, नाउ सी, ये वॉर जो है ट्रीटी ऑफ मैंगलोर 1784 में साइन होता है टीपू सुल्तान और इंग्लिश अथॉरिटी के बीच में। ठीक है, और इस पर्टिकुलर ट्रीटी के लिए जो जिम्मेवार थे उनका नाम है लॉर्ड मैककार्टनी। नाउ ये फैक्ट एनसीईआरटी में नहीं दिया हुआ है, लेकिन ये पूछा जाता है प्रीलिम्स में कि ट्रीटी ऑफ मैंगलोर इन 1784 वाज साइंड बाय whom? So Lord Macartney from English East India Company, and obviously from Mysore side, Tipu Sultan was a signatory. So in this particular way, he was able to finally pacify the situation. Now see, Tipu Sultan, his era began from 1782 till 1799. ठीक है, अब टीपू सुल्तान भी 2 एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर्स करेगा। 2 हैदर अली के समय हो गया, 2 टीपू सुल्तान के समय हो गया, मतलब टोटल 4 बार एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर्स हुआ। ठीक है, सो अब पहले हम बात कर लें टीपू सुल्तान के बारे में। सी, टीपू सुल्तान एज एनसीईआरटी इटसेल्फ राइट्स वेरी क्लियरली। क्या लिखता है एनसीईआरटी? ये कहता है ही वॉज अ मैन ऑफ कॉम्प्लेक्स कैरेक्टर। ही वॉज अ मैन ऑफ कॉम्प्लेक्स कैरेक्टर। क्या कॉम्प्लेक्स कैरेक्टर था इसका? Now see, Tipu Sultan was a statesman, was a reformer, was a scientist also at certain context, and he was also one of the bravest fighters of modern India. All right. So see, Tipu Sultan comes into picture, and if you see the NCERT has listed down a range of reforms introduced or undertaken by Tipu Sultan. And then finally, Tipu Sultan was also not been able to defeat the Britishers and finally succumbed to in the 4th Anglo-Mysore War in Seringapatam, and finally Mysore issue got eliminated altogether. So Mysore was finally amalgamated into the British, of course, Empire. Fine. So Tipu Sultan was a complex character. Why? Because at times, at occasions, he showed his policy towards a certain particular entity very favorably and certain times very unfavorably also. We'll discuss it short while. तो क्या क्या रिफॉर्म्स उसने किए, वो रिफॉर्म्स आपके लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है। देखिए, पहला रिफॉर्म, पूरे रिफॉर्म्स को एनसीईआरटी में तो लिस्ट डाउन कर दिया गया है, मैं आपको कैटेगराइज करके बता रहा हूँ पूरे रिफॉर्म्स को आपको कैसे याद रखना है, टीपू सुल्तान के रिफॉर्म्स को आपको याद कैसे रखना है। सी,